This is Jim Feist in Las Vegas, and we've got a big week of football and basketball ahead of us. And joining me to try to tackle all this is Hank Goldberg from, I would say, sunny South Florida, but you're expecting like 30-degree weather down there starting tomorrow. So we have 70-degree weather here in Las Vegas. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning, Jim. Yeah, it's going to turn to... it's going to be freezing around most of the state late tonight, and tomorrow morning I have to get up and go to work at CBS tomorrow. I got to be there at 10 o'clock, and I got to bundle up.
How far of a ride is that for you to get there?
It's just a half an hour or so, but I got to be picking these NFL games for them. So, but I'm ready. I think. I think these NFL games this weekend are kind of interesting. I got to tell you, I saw a stat today on Cam Newton that he has been involved in 60 plays this year where the ball has been turned over. That's a lot.
Well, from a passing standpoint, I mean, the guy's a tremendous athlete. We all know that. He had a big college career, won the national championship. He is just not a very precise passer. He overthrows a lot of receivers. He can't, when he runs, he's very difficult to handle. He's a big man, very strong, very athletic, but he's not your typical NFL quarterback, more of an option quarterback, and that's the kind of offense that they are playing. It's a little bit different for teams to defend, but this is a game inside in the dome against a team they've already faced twice this year. So there's really no mystery here between these two teams. Both of them know who they are. They know their plays. The coaches know the coaches. The players know the players, et cetera, et cetera. So there's not a lot of adjustments to be made here. They both have played each other twice. So it's different when you've got a division. This is a division game, basically, and they're playing for the third time. The Saints won the first two, but I don't think that matters here. I think it's just a matter of trying to dissect who's healthy enough to come in here and put the game plan together.
I'm going to take a little issue with that. I think it does matter. The Saints have beaten them twice and beaten them convincingly twice. I think there's some matchup problems that Carolina has against New Orleans. I think New Orleans defensively has their number. And I don't think Carolina is going to be able to move the ball against them. I think their wide receiver group is very inferior right now against the young New Orleans cornerbacks. I think that the Saints can play pretty good defense. I think what happened against Tampa Bay was pretty much of a fluke. And New Orleans at home is seven wins, I think, in a push. They're a very good home team, very tough team to beat at home. I think they have a huge advantage playing on their home field, and I think that's a big difference maker. And I think that Cam going into that loud building is going to have a hard time. And right now, he doesn't seem to be on the same page with his receivers. You watch him and Olsen, they haven't been able to hook up the last couple of weeks. Olsen looks like he's okay.
No, you were saying that Carolina's going to have a hard time, and I had to take a break there, going in there. Now, they have lost some, the wide receiver situation for Carolina is very strange. They cut one guy, traded one guy away, and one guy got hurt. Bird got hurt. He was doing pretty well filling in. not the healthiest of Carolina teams coming into this game.
Well, defensively they're healthy.
Yeah, that's one side of the ball. They're going to have to put up some points. I mean, Carolina can't. I mean, the Saints are not the same team as in the past where Drew Brees would go out there and throw the ball 50 times. With Ingram and Kamara, this is a pretty good running team, and that creates a lot of balance. And for Brees, he's pretty well managed that this year. Both teams can run the ball. I'm not too sure that the.
I don't think New Orleans can run the ball. Their running game is the quarterback. And so what does that tell you? You put a spy on them.
You're talking.
The Saints have the defensive guys who can do that.
You meant you said New Orleans. You meant Carolina.
I say Carolina. Their running game is their quarterback. That's it. And the Saints will put the spy on him, and they don't have to worry about the running backs too much. I mean, McCaffrey is basically a receiver out of the backfield, and I don't think they're too concerned with that. The stats were very convincing in the two games. They outscored them by double digits both times they played them, including on Carolina's turf. And, Sean Payton will be ready. And Sean Payton, he's a little irritated this week. So I think they're all business.
Well, I'm sure the Saints are not happy with the way they played defense against Jameis Winston last week in Tampa because they couldn't get any stops. So they have to consider that they have to step up their game. And of course, it wasn't a must-win for them. So even though I thought they were playing hard, it was not a must-win, and that has to go into our formula a little bit as to what to take out of that game. Buffalo is playing at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a pretty big 8.5, 9-point favorite. And now, for me, it's pretty rough to depend on Blake Bortles to lay that kind of number. I realize that they have had a tendency to do pretty well at home. Bortles has had some good games this year, but the last couple of weeks have been a little rough. Buffalo comes in there, of course, they have some injury issues. And, I'm not sure that anybody considers Buffalo to be a real playoff team. They kind of backed into this. And the total has gone from 40 down to 39.5. That's the lowest total we have in the wild card weekend. Jacksonville's 9, 8.5 or 9, 39.5.
Well, you have to wait and see if McCoy can go. Apparently, he's not hurt as badly as they feared, but he's still a game-time decision. But he's a huge deal, despite the fact that Jacksonville has such a terrific defense. But lately, the defense has caved a little bit. That's number one. The second part of it is that Jacksonville's going up against a very good defense that's capable of taking the ball away. They've generated some turnovers, and Bortles is a turnover machine. He's got half a dozen picks in the last couple of games that he's played. So there's a lot of pressure on Bortles. And their running back is playing hurt a little bit, and he hasn't. Although Ivory is a good replacement for him, but I don't know how much they can get out of their starter. Jacksonville, I think, stayed in Florida this week because they wanted to practice down here and be out of the cold weather. It's going to be, by the way, possibly a cold weather game, which kind of suits Buffalo.
That's right. With Florida going into a deep freeze, it more is like Sunday could come. It could be like Buffalo weather, and Buffalo did stay down in Miami or down in Florida rather than go home. And Buffalo, the weather in Buffalo is absolutely insane right now, so it would have made no sense to go back there.
And by the way, you say that Buffalo backed into it. It's not because they played poorly. It's because they needed some help. And why did they need help? Because they played the coach made that idiotic mistake playing a backup quarterback that 1 week. Otherwise, they would not have backed in. They'd have just been in.
Well, providing they would have been able to win that game, which is not absolute, but that was a ridiculous decision.
But they had no shot with that replacement.
Oh, you mean throwing five interceptions in the first quarter? Is a bad thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Moving on to the Saturday games, we got Tennessee visiting Kansas City. Kansas City's had like 3 seasons. They started the season off with 5 straight wins, then they went 1-6, and now the last 4 weeks they've played extremely well. They turned the play calling. Andy Reid turned the play calling over to the offensive coordinator, and they've changed their attitude on offense, so they're looking a little bit different in that respect. Now, Kansas City is also got some cold weather, so the temperature there, game time on Saturday, I'm not sure what it'll be because we're only talking about this on Wednesday, but it has been very cold in that area, and Tennessee is now here's a team that has not played very well recently. Now they did beat Jacksonville last week, but Marcus Mariota has not looked sharp. The coaching staff is not well thought of. This is one of those teams a lot of people think really did back into this playoff situation.
Well, last week Mariota was feeling better. He was a little bit more mobile than he's been in previous weeks, but he's been a real dog on the road. He's turned the ball over something like 12 times to 3 touchdown passes. The stats have been miserable. They've got one of their running backs is hurt, although Henry is a strong running back. But going against that Kansas City defense could be an issue there. I will tell you this. The last time Kansas City won a home playoff game, you and I were young men. It was in 1992. So you got, that to overcome. But Kansas City right now, offensively, Alex Smith will be back in control of quarterback, and he's had a good year, except for those, that mid-season flump. So, he's got weapons. I mean, he's got some good receivers. They got, I think, one of the top 3 tight ends in the league that are available to him. And they've got some speed on the flanks, and I think it could be too much for the Tennessee defense. And this game looks like it has blowout written all over.
Well, it's an 8.5 or 9-point line. It opens 7. A lot of money has come in on Kansas City, and it's justifiable looking at the way Tennessee has played recently and the way Kansas City has played recently. The only problem is
you have one issue with Kansas City. Which Alex Smith is going to show up?
Well, I followed Alex Smith's career since he was in college. This guy has a big arm. He's very mobile, runs well, and he makes good decisions. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. But, I think a lot of quarterbacks are managed, and their careers are a reflection of the offensive coordinators and the head coaches that they have. And he has been a very methodical game manager type. And you can remember, this guy was hitting 71% of his passes when he was with the Niners, and they replaced him with Colin Kaepernick. And, Kaepernick had that 1 or 2 good years, and he looked like a world beater, but this guy has been consistently one of the highest percentage completion quarterbacks in football, and the lowest percentage of turnovers. It's consistent. The problem with him is he's been so conservative. I mean, he doesn't stretch the field. But if you'll notice, since Reed turned over the play calling to Nagy, it has been an entirely different situation with them. They're stretching the field. They have the outside people to stretch the field. He has the arm to reach them, but that has not been the play calling. Now, we all know that Andy Reid, for many years, has been an extremely conservative coach. And maybe that change to Nagy doing the play calling has made a big difference.
I think that's a great point. And, he's, when they turn him loose, he's been pretty good. And, but he had a couple of games where he was not accurate. And that's my only concern. I hope he shows up. He can be a real stinker at times. But the last 3 or 4 starts, he's been on the money. And he's got, like I said, the weapons. He's got a great fallback position if they try to double up on the wide receivers with speed, and that his tight end, as long as he keeps his head on straight in the game, is a top flight weapon for him. And I don't think that Tennessee's got the answer to that.
Now, Kelsey, you said it right. If he keeps his head on straight, he has a tendency to be a hothead. But Kelsey is one hell of a football player. And you've got to remember that Kansas City opened the season by going to New England and winning in Foxborough.
Yep.
This is not a paper mache team. This is a team that is very, very dangerous. And the AFC is not the most powerful conference we have out there right now. And given a break or two, this team could go a long way. Don't underestimate the Chiefs. Now, covering 8 or 9 points is another issue, but they are a very scary team if they put it together. I think they're the third best team. I think they're the third best team in the conference. Well, you're behind the Patriots and Pittsburgh. Yeah, they are. And we all know, you can't say too much bad about the Patriots. You can find fault about Pittsburgh because sometimes they play down and they don't show up, and the Patriots seem to always show up. But the Steelers, they have a different personality. You don't know what you're going to get week to week with them. And Kansas City, if they can play like they did at the beginning of the season or they're playing now, they might be able to beat one of those 2 teams and maybe go all the way. Who knows? And somebody's going to get to the Super Bowl, and there's not that much depth in the AFC. The NFC is a different animal. And we got one more game, Atlanta at the Rams. Atlanta, this is not the same team that was in the Super Bowl and led 28-3 at halftime. This isn't the same club. The difference between Shanahan and Sarkisian has made a huge difference. Maybe there's some other factors in there. Quinn, I have a lot of problems with Quinn not getting the job done here. Can't always put it just on the offensive coordinator or Matt Ryan. There are issues. There's no question about it. But I also put it on Quinn. And they're going out to the Rams. This is a long trip for Atlanta off a short week. The Rams have been an unbelievable story. New head coach, young guy, very aggressive. The Rams are a high-scoring club. Atlanta can be a high-scoring club. They certainly have the weapons, but they haven't been. Many times they barely get to 20 points, 21 points, and that's unbelievable with those 2 running backs and those wide receivers that they have. It's really unbelievable that they have fallen off the map in that respect. But yards per play, they're still one of the best teams in football. The Rams opened up 4.5, 49. They're now 6.5 and 48.5.
This game scares me a little bit in that the Atlanta is capable, but they had some injuries in their offensive line last week. They lost their left guard, who's a very good player, and the center is hurt. And that hurts, I think, the strength of their team, which is their running game. And you know, the one thing that the Rams don't get a lot of attention for is their defense, which can play very well at times. And at times they've been playing pretty well most of the year. So I think that gives the Rams an edge. But you know, can Burley have a big game against the Rams defense? Well, you know, that one stat, if he carries the ball 23 times, the Rams are 8-0 now. Or if he gets 23 touches, the Rams are 8-0. Goff's playing his first postseason game. If he's nervous, I don't know that Atlanta's defense is going to be able to handle him either. But again, you know, Atlanta has a lot of talent on that team, and if they can get that running game going against the Rams defense, they could keep the ball away from the Rams and stay with them. But the injuries in the offensive line really bother me, and the short turnaround bothers me too. And the fact that, you know, the quarterback has not played well.
Yeah,
Matty Ice has been inaccurate too many times this year.
It's been a very strange year for Atlanta. Nothing that, you know, there's always that Super Bowl hangover they talk about, but I mean, you got to give them credit. I mean, Super Bowl hangover, no, and changing at the offensive coordinator is a big deal, but they have made the playoffs. They still are there. They're still a dangerous team. If they can turn the switch on, they're a dangerous ball club. They got too many weapons.
Well, you know something? Yeah, I agree with that. But last week against Carolina, they won that game because Cam stunk. He couldn't hit you and me standing right in front of him. He was all over the place. He played a lousy game. Otherwise, you know, Atlanta, you know, probably would not have won that game.
Yeah, that's probably true. Atlanta's been they've been a disappointment. There's no question. They are there, and you always wonder when you have those kind of players. They have really star players, but they're definitely, the Rams are the favorite. They deserve to be the favorite. They are the better team on the football field this week. No question about it. They've earned that right. And
Atlanta's got a lot of injuries on offense, by the way. In addition to the offensive line, you know, they've got some of their key guys who are playing hurt among their key guys, both among the running backs and the receivers.
Well, Hank, we've covered the NFL, the big college game, Alabama 45. That's coming up, but we can cover that on Friday if you want. Anything else you want to talk about before we sign off?
Well, last night Isaiah Thomas came back for Cleveland, and Cleveland won pretty convincingly. Now they go back to Boston, but he's not going to play. So I was looking forward to that, but they're going to rest him tonight. And there's some good college basketball activity right now going on, some good matchups. I'll give you a game tonight, and that's North Carolina is playing at Florida State. Florida State has got a lot of talent. North Carolina has been kind of spotty this year, although they have talent too. Florida State is a slight favorite in that game at home. I'm going to give you a tip on that one. I like the Seminoles.
Well, Hank, the way Hank speaks, you should be listening, because Hank has been kicking ass in the college hoops. So go to jimfeist.com. Hank's plays are there, my plays are there, and we've been making money. Hank had a great weekend again, which is usual for him, and both of us are doing very, very well. So go to jimfeist.com, check out our picks, and we'll talk to you again on Friday. Thank you, Hank.
Jim, my happiest New Year's experience was watching the Central Florida game against Auburn. That was so entertaining, and I think I told you earlier, the facilities at Central Florida, I was told by a friend of mine who's an NFL coach, he's visited there, are first rate. They're as good as it gets. They've spent a lot of money on that program, and I think they're going to be good for a long time to come.
An undefeated season, congratulations to them. There's a lot of people think that maybe they could be dangerous in these playoffs if they were allowed to be in it, but it's not the way the system works at this time. So, but congratulations to them. An undefeated season is incredible. And thanks, Hank. We'll talk again on Friday.
All right. Have a good